As a constitutional law attorney, former senior legal advisor, and personal counsel to President Donald J. Trump, Jenna Ellis believes in the rule of law and the importance of integrity in our elections. And she's ready to tackle the big cultural and legal issues facing America. This is the Jenna Ellis Show. Here is your host, Jenna Ellis.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Jenna Ellis Show. I'm Jenna Ellis, and the big bombshell news that happened last night was the final report from Durham. We have been waiting for this for a long time, and people like our good friend Jack Posobiec are wondering on Twitter, why was this delayed until 6 months after the midterms? Well, those questions are very important, and also the substance of the Durham report. Where is the accountability? We now know that Hillary Clinton on purpose tried to advance this entire Russia collusion hoax. Will there be any accountability? Does anyone care about the rule of law? Or will Hillary Clinton just say, well, what difference at this point does it really make? We've heard that from her before. Well, to break it all down, my good friend Gregg Jarrett, who has a brand new book out called The Trial of the Century, that you absolutely have to read. It's fantastic. Will join me in just a moment, right after this, to break it all down. You're not going to want to miss it. With inflation, the banking world collapse, and everything that Joe Biden is doing not to protect America, you need to make sure to secure your financial health, especially in retirement. And hey, if you're a millennial like me, that actually is sooner than you think. You need to start now, even if you are a millennial or a Gen Zer, to make sure that your financial health is actually healthy when we get to retirement. And Legacy Precious Metals has a revolutionary new online platform that allows you to invest in gold and silver online in real time. In a few easy steps, you can open an account online, select your metals of choice, and choose to have them stored in a vault or shipped right to your door. You'll have access to a dashboard where you can track your portfolio growth in real time anytime. You'll see transparent pricing on each coin and bar, and this puts you in complete control of your money. The platform is free to sign up for. Visit legacypminvestments.com and open your account and see this new investing platform for yourself. Gold hedges against inflation and against a volatile stock market. A truly diversified portfolio isn't just more stocks and bonds, but different asset classes. This brand new platform allows you to make investments in gold and silver, no matter how small or large, with just a few clicks. Visit legacypm.com to get started. You can download the free investor's guide, and you can also call Legacy PM Investments to talk to a portfolio expert to get expert answers to to customize your personal portfolio. So visit legacypminvestments.com to get started. Tell them that Jenna sent you. So joining me now is my good friend Gregg Jarrett of Fox News. And Gregg, you wrote an excellent piece yesterday in the aftermath of the Durham Report. And that headline is Bombshell Durham Report Confirms FBI Justice Department had these radical motives. The special counsel John Durham's report contains irrefutable proof that there is a dual system of justice in our country at the FBI and the Justice Department. So first of all, what do you make as a legal scholar and analyst of the Durham Report and where we're at as a country?
Well, the dual system of justice that Durham himself points to and provides evidence is really amazing. He argues that the FBI had no actionable intelligence against Donald Trump. They had no credible evidence, no facts whatsoever that would justify opening an investigation of Trump in the summer of 2016. And in fact, I explained the same guidelines that the FBI violated that Durham recounts in his report. And yet you juxtapose it, as Durham does, to the treatment of Hillary Clinton. They had a plethora of compelling, powerful, overwhelming evidence of criminal wrongdoing. And yet they looked the other way. They didn't open an investigation of Hillary Clinton for a variety of things she did. Then, of course, you factor in that FBI Director James Comey cleared her of any crimes, despite clear evidence that she committed more than 100 crimes under the Espionage Act in her email scandal and obstructed justice by destroying more than 30,000 documents under subpoena. And you get a very clear picture of preferential treatment based on politics and a dual system of justice, which renders the statement on the pediment of the United States Supreme Court, equal justice under law, a joke. And, people are saying today, well, nobody's going to be held accountable. Durham's finished. He's not going to bring any more criminal charges other than the 3 cases he brought. I understand that frustration, but what is important is that history is now written. After an exhaustive, thorough investigation by Durham, we now know that malign actors within our own government ignored the law, contorted the facts, and brought a specious case against a presidential candidate that they then continued after he won in order to drive him from the presidency and ruin his tenure as president of the United States.
This is just a scandal of epic proportions, and I think you're right in terms of the impact on history, and it's important to have these conclusions as a matter of the report. And when people are calling for accountability, I've seen, a few people like Representative Matt Gaetz and others that are calling for defunding of the FBI in the wake of this report. And I'm wondering as well, will Speaker McCarthy actually have any kind of impeachment proceedings against now President Joe Biden? Because the report also says that then Vice President Joe Biden was actually briefed on this leading into the 2016 election. And so even though there are legal arguments, back and forth, and certainly you and I had those arguments in the wake of the first and then second impeachment that were ridiculous of Donald Trump. But these types of things suggest that maybe a political impeachment that is legally substantive would be warranted.
Well, absent of showing that they were involved in wrongdoing, I don't think an impeachment for Joe Biden or any criminal cases brought against Biden and Obama would be warranted. It's one thing to sit idly by and knowingly allowing one of your agencies, the FBI, together with the Department of Justice to, bring unfounded, unmerited, unjustified cases against innocent individuals. It's another thing to actually be involved in it directly. They were in the former category, not the latter. What I find so amazing is that Obama, who knew it was all invented by Hillary Clinton, because CIA Director John Brennan rushed over to the Oval Office and told him, hey, this whole collusion thing, it's a hoax invented by Hillary Clinton. Obama kept quiet the whole time, didn't utter a word, knew all about it. And of course, Brennan jumped on the bandwagon as, oh yeah, there's plenty of evidence that Trump colluded with Russia. Brennan was among the first people to learn at the CIA that Hillary Clinton had approved a plan by one of her aides to smear Trump, to frame him as a Russian stooge in order to divert attention away from her own growing email scandal. So, I find it just unconscionable and reprehensible that Barack Obama didn't speak out, Joe Biden didn't speak out. But is anybody really surprised? I mean, they were gleefully watching it all unfold, hoping that in the end, Trump would be driven from office because they loathed his policies and they despised the man. But that's what American politics has come to these days.
Yeah, which I think is so sad and unfortunate that the political assessment influences and even directs the legal process so often. And that includes, of course, the impeachment shams against Donald Trump. And as conservatives and as lawyers like you and I are, we should always be concerned about precedent. We should be concerned about following the law and the Constitution. And when the Democrats just seek to weaponize justice, when they seek to weaponize the law and weaponize the Constitution and render it completely out of context and say that impeachment is entirely political, or some of these other law enforcement agencies can act on political whim, then we get to a banana republic, which is what we're seeing. And in fact, I want to read this portion and get your reaction to this, Gregg Jarrett. Durham said, quote, "There is a continuing need for the FBI and the department to recognize that lack of analytical rigor, apparent confirmation bias, and an overwillingness to rely on information from individuals connected to political opponents that caused investigators to fail to adequately consider alternative hypotheses and to act without appropriate objectivity or restraint in pursuing allegations of collusion or conspiracy between a U.S. political campaign and a foreign power." And he goes on to say, although recognizing that in hindsight is much clearer, much of this also seems to have been clear at the time. We therefore believe it's important to examine past conduct and to identify shortcomings and improve. But I mean, do we really think that this kind of report that is already being shifted through the political lens of the court of public opinion is actually going to have any effect on how the Department of Justice or the FBI operates?
No, it'll have zero effect. And, within an hour, Christopher Wray, the current director of the FBI, issued a statement saying, "Not to worry, we've already implemented corrective measures to make sure this kind of abuse identified by Durham, abuse by James Comey and Andrew McCabe and Peter Strzok and Lisa Page and the whole gang will never happen again." Well, that's laughable. It's ludicrous. It has continued to happen, and it runs through today. I mean, we saw them do it all over again in the next presidential election in 2020. When, according to the Twitter files, and that's pretty hard, credible evidence because they contain communications, the FBI went about pressuring and directing social media companies like Twitter to suppress and censor the Hunter Biden laptop story with the sole purpose of helping Joe Biden defeat Donald Trump. And it worked. And you have 51 former intel officials who misused their credentialed authority to perpetrate another lie that the laptop's all Russian disinformation. Well, now we know from Mike Morell's testimony, it was all made up, and it was, the Biden campaign that engineered the whole thing. And Joe Biden stood there in a presidential debate and said, "See, it's all garbage. 51 former intel officials said so." And Joe left out the part about how he and his campaign and his now Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, manufactured that lying letter signed by 51 liars who don't have an ounce of remorse, who've never apologized for it. So, this kind of corruption is endemic. It continues. We are seeing evidence of it on, almost a daily, weekly basis. Corrupt officials, armed with immense power, more than happy to abuse their authority for political purposes.
Yeah, and you have to wonder if President Trump is seriously questioning his nomination and appointment of Christopher Wray. I mean, he said as recently on Fox News as a couple of weeks ago that, he thinks he did a good job. And of course, I'm paraphrasing. And, that's typical Trump politics, though, to just double down instead of saying, maybe that appointment wasn't really that wise. But what do you make of this particular story and the outcome that of course all conservatives know just underscores and proves what we already knew? How will this impact the 2024 presidential election moving forward?
Well, I think it will force us to be deeply skeptical of anyone in the Department of Justice and the FBI who are going after Donald Trump all over again. You see Merrick Garland appointing a special counsel to investigate Trump and refusing to appoint a special counsel to investigate his own boss and his boss's son, Hunter Biden, and the President of the United States. Even though federal regulations require Garland to appoint a special counsel. Now, he's not doing it because the fix is in. There's a protection racket that Garland is running and Christopher Wray are running at the FBI and the DOJ to protect Hunter Biden. Why? Because A, he's the president's son, and B, the evidence that Hunter has on his laptop and elsewhere implicates the president is complicit in these multi-million-dollar foreign influence peddling schemes. And so, I think people need to be skeptical when they see Garland and Wray, going after Donald Trump yet again.
Yeah. And I think the average American who has been watching this and who actually has respect for the truth of the matter, respect for facts and the process, and who's willing to read the Durham Report for themselves and not just listen to the mainstream media's narratives, are seeing this, and they're really frustrated that there isn't a lot of accountability. But you made a really great point this morning on my radio program, which is at afr.net, Jenna Ellis in the Morning. Everybody can go there as well to listen to that whole interview. But you made a really good point that I want to underscore, Greg, this morning, that so many people only filter their understanding of politics through the confirmation bias and made up narratives of the mainstream media. And so these people, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and Andy McCabe and others are out there. I mean, they're now literally documented liars, and
Right.
they are out there. And then Michael Cohen, who is a confirmed and actually pled guilty as a liar. They're out there on networks like MSNBC and CNN, and yet people still watch these networks and they think that, oh, that's telling the truth, and they get their information and this narrative of, oh, all of this has been debunked or proven or whatever from those sources. And that really dominates the court of public opinion instead of the court of law. So then when you have things like the Durham Report, 6-7 years later, it almost seems like, to unfortunately quote Hillary Clinton, at this point, what difference does it make? Because the court of public opinion has already been a ship that has long sailed. So how do we come back from that and start asking people in America to start caring about the truth again?
Well, I think people, are consumers of everything from goods and services to news programs. And, if it's a foul-tasting news program that offends your sensibilities because they put up nothing but crooks and liars on air, then I think, you have the ability to be discriminatory and flip channels and say, I'm never going to go back to CNN or MSNBC ever again because they're putting up these established liars, like John Brennan, James Clapper, Peter Strzok, Andrew McCabe. McCabe and Strzok got fired for their wrongful conduct. So, McCabe for lying. So what did they do? They went out and wrote a book. And then they signed contracts to appear on CNN and MSNBC along with Brennan and Clapper. And, these are nefarious characters, infamous for their deceptions and their wrongful behavior and abuse of power while they were in office. It doesn't surprise me that CNN, MSNBC don't have the decency or common sense to banish them from their airways. No, they're more than happy to put them on the air. I can only speak for myself, but whenever I see their faces, as I'm passing through the channels, I keep going. I'm not going to sit around and watch McCabe and Peter Strzok and John Brennan and James Clapper spew their nonsense. And I would encourage American consumers to react the same way.
Mm-hmm. And that's really what it comes down to, is that we have the capability of choice, and we have to be smart consumers of the news instead of just looking at it for entertainment value or for confirmation bias or for passive consumption. We have to be smart critics, and we have to be skeptical. I mean, I've told even regular listeners of this show, for everyone who is listening to this show on a regular basis, that's listening, to be skeptical of all these things. I mean, I have my opinions, but opinions should be based in facts and should be based in the truth of reality. And you should always be skeptical, even if it is a trusted source. And you should always ask yourself, is there a difference here between fact and opinion? And parse those differences for yourself. Always be skeptical with everything that you read and go back to the source as much as you possibly can, rather than taking, someone's interpretation of the Durham Report, as much as, we as political commentators and legal analysts can talk about it. Go read it for yourself and then come and listen, to the explanation. And I hope that the biggest lesson over the last 6 or 7 years that Trump will have affected on America is to be highly skeptical of the entire mainstream media, or media as a whole. I mean, even people on Twitter and commentators, be skeptical, because a lot of it is fake news. Go to the sources yourselves, and also be very informed consumers of the news. And so, right. One last question for you, Gregg Jarrett, as well. So moving forward, though, into 2024, because we've seen, the impact on 2016. We're not even allowed to talk about 2020 and, what the Democrats, tried to do, some of the things they accomplished in 2020. We're not even allowed to talk about all of that. Otherwise, we're insurrectionists and all this other stuff. Trump now has an opportunity to actually use this and the Durham Report and everything that has happened to the institutions of government over the last 6 or 7 years, and really take that messaging really effectively. But he's out here spending way more money attacking the most popular Republican governor in the country, Ron DeSantis, who at this point has not even declared his candidacy for president. We expect that he will. I don't think that's a great use of time. I don't think he's winning any new fans of this. I've told him personally, attack the Democrats. Don't attack, the people that are doing a good job and actually following in your footsteps. And so I don't think that he's being as effective as he could be with his messaging and what he actually accomplished over the 4 years of his administration. So, I mean, if you talk to him, what would your advice be in terms of the messaging, the court of public opinion versus the court of law, and what you've seen over the last 6 and 7 years in the press?
Well, I wouldn't tell him anything different than what you've told him, which I think is sage advice. Remain focused on the big picture, and, don't sully yourself with skirmishes when they're utterly unnecessary. I mean, look at some of the latest polling data. I think there's a Siena poll out today that has Ron DeSantis in single digits and, Trump way, way ahead. Frankly, when you're that far ahead, I ignore a weak opponent, and I would attack the issues that Americans care about the most, the ones that affect them personally. And that is the economy, first and foremost. The economy was very strong when Trump handed over the reins. It's gone in the toilet ever since because of Joe Biden's profligate spending that drove up inflation. It's fundamental econ 101. But Joe Biden's the kind of guy who could screw up a free lunch. He touches a bar of gold and it turns to stone. He's a screw up and always has been. And, not a bright guy. Americans, I guess, are sort of getting what they deserve, but it was easily predictable. The border chaos. My Lord, Americans watched, last week as the crisis escalated, as unilaterally, Joe Biden ended Title 42. 155,000 people lined up at the border at the stroke of midnight. Welcome. We'll see you sometime in about 10 years at your first court hearing. And crime. So these are things: inflation, economy, crime, the border crisis, American security. focus on the issues that people care about day in and day out.
Yeah.
And if, that message rings true and resonates with American voters, he stands a very good chance of getting elected again to the presidency. The best thing that Donald Trump has going for him is a feckless opponent in Joe Biden. Probably among the worst presidents ever to assume office. And the guy doesn't even know that, today's Tuesday. He doesn't know what he had for breakfast. He doesn't know what color tie he's wearing unless he looks down. He's not really the president. He's a puppet. And I often wonder, who are the puppeteers? Who are the people that are really running the White House from the Oval Office? I mean, Joe wanders around on a stage after he fumbles and mumbles through a teleprompter speech, like a guy who just wandered off from the nursing home, which, in my judgment is elder abuse. And I, blame the people around him and his family and his wife for that, and, you get criticized for saying it, but I don't give a damn.
Good for you.
So, I think Donald Trump needs to focus on the issues first and foremost, and an occasional broadside at Joe Biden, which is, a piece of cake. That's a given.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those are all of the issues that you just articulated, Greg, are exactly what Trump was so brilliant at in office. Those are all of his accomplishments. And Biden is now running on his own record that is abysmal. And the contrasts there are just stunning. Yeah. And that's what Trump should be focused on. And I think you're right. Right now with the polling and DeSantis not even declared, why is he even talking about him? I mean, he could have so much support and a huge swell of support by just that contrast. So I hope that he turns and tailors his messaging. But as you and I both know about Donald Trump, we can all advise. I mean, as Jay Sekulow, who was my colleague, of course, as personal counsel, both he and I were to the president during his administration. He liked to say that we are his lawyers, not his conscience. So there's that, and he's going to direct his campaign how he wants to. But thank you so much for your analysis of the Durham Report moving forward. And you have a brand new book that I want to highlight as well. Everyone should go out and get this. I love all of your books. I just
happen to have a copy of the Trial of the Century right now. It comes out 2 weeks from today. Trial of the Century, about the famous Scopes monkey trial that established the bedrock principles that we cherish today: free speech, civil liberties, academic autonomy, intellectual enlightenment. And I think it's a fascinating book. The reason I wrote it is because if you talk to young people today, anybody under 40, nobody's ever heard of the famous Scopes monkey trial. And it's so important. And in fact, in many ways, as I argue in the book, more relevant now than ever before. So it's available online for pre-order, Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. And it comes out in bookstores everywhere, May 30th.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to reading it. And I think that's a wonderful opportunity that everyone listening has. Get a copy for a college student or a young person, anybody under 40 that that hasn't heard of the Scopes monkey trial. That's actually important. It was kind of touched on in law school, not as much as it should have, frankly. But, the whole history of the Supreme Court and how we got to the civil liberties that we so cherish today, all of that history is incredibly important. And you do such a brilliant job, Greg, of really analyzing it and making it fascinating and interesting to read about. So looking forward to this coming out. So Trial of the Century, you can get that. And Gregg Jarrett, really appreciate it. And also you have a lot of articles online. It's, I believe, GreggJarrett.com. And where can people find you for all of that? Yeah, it's
thegreggjarrett.com. All of my columns are there, other news stories. There's a landing page for my book, so you can gain access to just click and order. So thegreggjarrett.com, and follow me on Twitter @Gregg Jarrett.
All right, I do. And I follow you on Twitter and always retweet your stories because they're always great. So thanks so much,
Thanks.
Greg, for joining the Gregg Jarrett. And I really appreciate your commentary. Not just a Gregg Jarrett, it's thegreggjarrett.com. So we'll remember that. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks very much, Jenna. Take care.
With inflation, the banking world collapse, and everything that Joe Biden is doing not to protect America, you need to make sure to secure your financial health, especially in retirement. And hey, if you're a millennial like me, that actually is sooner than you think. You need to start now, even if you are a millennial or a Gen Zer, to make sure that your financial health is actually healthy when we get to retirement. And Legacy Precious Metals has a revolutionary new online platform that allows you to invest in gold and silver online in real time. In a few easy steps, you can open an account online, select your metals of choice, and choose to have them stored in a vault or shipped right to your door. You'll have access to a dashboard where you can track your portfolio growth in real time anytime. You'll see transparent pricing on each coin and bar, and this puts you in complete control of your money. The platform is free to sign up for. Visit legacypminvestments.com and open your account and see this new investing platform for yourself. Gold hedges against inflation and against a volatile stock market. A truly diversified portfolio isn't just more stocks and bonds, but different asset classes. This brand new platform allows you to make investments in gold and silver, no matter how small or large, with just a few clicks. Visit legacypm.com to get started. You can download the free investor's guide, and you can also call Legacy PM Investments to talk to a portfolio expert to get expert answers to your to customize your personal portfolio. So visit legacypminvestments.com to get started. Tell them that Jenna sent you.
Have you ever picked up a towel set because it felt so soft in the store, but then when you leave and you go to use it, it's not really that absorbent? It's basically a towel that is leaving you out to dry. That's why MyPillow has developed the MyPillow towels that actually work. I know, it's totally mind-blowing. Towels that actually dry you. Their 6-piece towel set includes 2 bath towels, 2 hand towels, and 2 washcloths. They come in a variety of colors. I have the sage green and the white. I love them. And right now you can receive a 6-piece set for only $39.98 with promo code Jenna. That's JENNA. So go to mypillow.com right now and click on the radio listeners special. MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty and have a 60-day money-back guarantee. So to receive this amazing offer on the 6-piece towel set of MyPillow towels, just go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener special, and enter promo code Jenna, that's JENNA, or call 1-800-564-8475. That's mypillow.com, promo code Jenna.